The soft hum of the porch light flickered above me the moment I spotted my daughter's footprints disappearing into the snow. Still, I steadied my breath, the cold glow trembling against my hands as I stepped off the warm porch. As that faint buzzing vibrated in my ears, it grew heavier, like every year I'd ignored the quiet ways she'd been fading. While the same shiver of light followed me down the path, I realized she hadn't walked into the dark for drama, she walked because none of us looked up. The same hum revealed the truth: we built a home full of noise and no attention. That's when I decided the cycle would end with me, and my daughter would never stand unseen in the cold again. We're about to begin, but if you'd like, share where you're joining from. It reminds me this story doesn't echo into silence, it lands somewhere real. Drop it in the comments and don't forget to subscribe. I should have noticed it sooner. The way Lily hovered near the edge of the living room, half in shadow, her arms crossed so tightly across her chest, I wondered if she was holding herself together or trying not to be seen. But the house was loud, full of music, clinking glasses, and that constant low buzz of surface-level joy people perform on holidays. David was glowing, of course. He always did when he was hosting. He had that polished charisma that came alive around other people, that laugh a little too loud, that nod just timed right. He stood by the fireplace, a glass of bourbon in his hand, talking to Mark about ski trips and stock markets while our kids, faded into the background. Sarah breezed in from the kitchen, her cheeks red from the cold outside. "Mom, do we have almond milk? Rachel doesn't do dairy." She was already scrolling her phone, barely looking at me. I told her it was in the back fridge. She nodded absently, tossed her scarf onto the banister, and disappeared again. I stood at the stove, whisking the gravy, hearing laughter spill from the living room, but none of it sounded like Lily. When I finally turned to look for her, I caught her reflection in the hallway mirror. She wasn't sulking. Sulking would have been louder. This was different. Still, quiet, eyes locked on the lights strung over the window like they weren't hers to look at. "You okay, honey?" I asked, wiping my hands on a dish towel. She nodded once, too fast. I should have walked over, I should have asked more, but the timer went off and someone in the dining room shouted about the ham, and I told myself again that she was 16, moody, and this was normal. When I looked back, she was gone. Outside, the snow had started again. I didn't notice right away. The heat inside made the windows sweat, and everyone was moving from room to room with their drinks and plates and new sweaters. I heard David laugh, the kind of laugh that tells you he's already had a second drink. Mark slapped his back. "Still the best host in New England," he said, and David just grinned like a damn politician. I searched the faces in the room. No Lily. "Have you seen your sister?" I asked Sarah, catching her in the hallway, her phone still glued to her hand. "She was near the den like 15 minutes ago. I dunno, probably tick-tocking." She shrugged and slipped back into the dining room where someone was pouring wine. I moved toward the front door, checking the foyer, the bathroom, even upstairs. Her room was empty, the lights off, the window slightly cracked. My chest tightened. I opened the front door, and the cold hit me like a slap. That's when I saw it, the faint outline of footprints leading down the steps and out toward the street. Fresh ones, too small to be David's, too light to be Mark's. "Lily," I called. No answer, just wind and Christmas lights and laughter bleeding through the walls behind me. I stepped out onto the porch. The snow fell in slow, glittering silence, and for the first time that night I realized how warm it had been inside and how cold it really was out here. I took another step toward the dark. The cold deepened with every step I took down the front path. The snowflakes were heavier now, sticking to my hair, collecting on my sweater. I could feel the warmth of the house behind me fading, replaced by a sharp, metallic wind that felt like breathing ice. "Lily," my voice cracked, thinner than I meant it to be. For a moment, there was nothing but the hum of neighborhood Christmas lights and the distant thump of bass from someone's speaker down the street. Then I saw her, a small, still shape near the edge of the driveway, right where the street lamp light cut into the darkness. She wasn't sitting, she wasn't pacing. She was just standing there, arms hanging limp at her sides, her coat half-zipped, snow clinging to her hair like frost. Her breath trembled visibly in the air. "Lily," I walked quickly, the snow crunching beneath my boots. When I reached her, I touched her arm and flinched. She was freezing, her skin felt like stone. Why are you out here? What happened? I tried to look into her eyes, but she kept them fixed straight ahead, her jaw tight, her lips blue around the edges. She didn't answer. Talk to me, I whispered, my voice shaking now, please. Her chin trembled, not like crying, like shivering so hard she could barely hold herself up. I tried to wrap my arm around her, but she stiffened, pulling just out of reach. That hurt more than the cold. Behind us, the party went on, muffled through the walls, glasses clinking, people laughing loudly, someone shouting across the living room about poker. Mark's voice rose louder than the rest, something about doubling down on a bet. David's laugh followed, bright, carefree, utterly oblivious. Lily swallowed hard, and for the first time she turned her face slightly toward me. Her eyes were glossy, wide, and hollow all at once. There was no accusation in them, which made it so much worse, just exhaustion, the kind that comes after years of slowly drowning where no one sees you. Did someone say something to you? I asked softly. Did something happen? No response, just another violent shiver. The porch light flicked on behind us, and I turned to see Sarah framed in the doorway, squinting into the snow. Mom, what's going on? She called, stepping outside, rubbing her arms. She looked at Lily, then at me, confusion spreading. Why are you out here? You're freezing. Lily's voice finally broke through, barely more than breath. You didn't notice? She wasn't looking at me or Sarah, just staring down at the snow like she could disappear into it. No one did. My stomach twisted. Honey. Don't, the word cracked in half. You were all inside, laughing, and I was just gone, and it didn't matter. Sarah's face went pale. Lily, that's not. Don't pretend, Lily whispered, shaking her head, tears mixed with melting snow on her cheeks. You didn't even look up. For a moment, all I could hear was the wind. The house behind us erupted into another burst of laughter, louder than before, crashing into the silence like an insult. David's voice carried above the rest, something about the best Christmas yet. I wrapped my arms around Lily despite her resistance, pulling her close, feeling her body tremble violently against mine. We're going inside, I murmured. You're freezing. She didn't fight, but she didn't lean into me either. She just let herself be moved, like she was too tired to care. When we stepped into the foyer, the warmth slammed into us. The smell of cinnamon and ham and pine, the heat of the fire, the rush of cheerful noise. No one even turned. Not David, not Mark, not the circle of guests clustered around the bar. It was like we were invisible. I closed the door slowly behind us, the latch clicking into place with a sound that felt final. Then I looked up, and David finally glanced our way, confusion wrinkling his brow. What's going on? He called across the room. For the first time that night, something inside me snapped. I tightened my arm around Lily's shoulders. We need to talk, I said, louder than I meant to, loud enough that people stopped mid-sentence, voices tapering off into uneasy silence. And in the sudden stillness, the distance between us, all the years of it, felt like a canyon. And I realized this was only the beginning. David was already halfway through a joke when we entered the living room, something about Mark's terrible poker face. Laughter had started bubbling back up, as if my voice hadn't cut through the room just moments ago. But now the weight of Lily's silence beside me shifted everything. Her wet boots squeaked against the hardwood. Her face was pale, hair matted to her cheeks. She looked like a ghost, like something fragile that didn't belong in all this noise and heat. David's brow furrowed as he crossed toward us, the smile fading just enough to reveal irritation beneath it. What's going on? He repeated, a little more clipped this time. I turned fully toward him, lowering my voice but not my intensity. She was outside, David, alone in the snow, freezing. He glanced at Lily, then back at me. Okay, but I didn't know she left. No one told me. No one told you, my voice cracked. She was gone for nearly half an hour. David exhaled, rubbing the back of his neck. She probably just needed air, Hannah. Teenagers do that. You're blowing this out of proportion. Lily's head dropped slightly, the only sign she was still listening. I looked at him, really looked, and what I saw wasn't concern, it was inconvenience. She could have gotten sick, or worse, I said, my voice tightening. She was out there with no hat, barely zipped up, while you were in here laughing with Mark. Oh, come on, don't do that. David glanced around, aware of the watching eyes. Let's not make this into some big. It is big, I snapped. Mark, still holding a drink, chuckled awkwardly. I mean, she's fine now, right? Let's just get back. Okay, to the party, it's Christmas. Lily flinched like that word stung, Christmas, as if it was supposed to mean something good. Sarah stepped between us, her eyes wide. Can we just calm down, please? Maybe talk in the kitchen or something, everyone else. Lily suddenly turned, stepping away from all of us, her voice flat and raw. Don't, I'm done. Lily, I started after her, but she was already moving, boots slapping against the floor as she took the stairs 2 at a time. David sighed and muttered, unbelievable. My jaw clenched. Don't do that, don't act like she's being dramatic. She is being dramatic, he snapped. This is what she does, sulks, disappears, then makes a scene when someone notices. You're just feeding into it. I stared at him, stunned. You think this is about tonight? I asked, my voice suddenly calm, too calm. You think this is some random teenage outburst? He looked at me, uncertain now. It's not, I said. It's years, David. It's years of her trying to get your attention, trying to get mine, of being the extra, the background noise while we smile through holidays like everything's fine. Sarah shifted uncomfortably, crossing her arms. Look, can we just... It's not just about tonight, I said again, turning fully toward David. It's everything. You've been absent for years. His mouth opened, then shut, whatever argument he had fizzled beneath the weight of that truth. The guests stood frozen, some pretending to sip their drinks, others awkwardly retreating toward the hallway. I stepped past him toward the stairs. I'm going to check on her. Can we at least talk? He called after me. You had years, I said without turning back. Behind me, the room stood still, like someone had unplugged the joy. Even the fire seemed quieter. And then came the knock. Hard, sharp, unmistakable. At the front door. Everyone turned. David blinked. Who the hell? I stopped at the base of the stairs, heart hammering. Because whoever it was, they hadn't come for the party. No one moved. The knock came again, slower this time, more deliberate. I turned to David. He looked back at me like this was somehow my fault. Sarah hovered by the stair rail, eyes flicking between us. Then he stepped forward and opened the door. The cold rushed in first, along with the sound of tires on wet pavement. A tall man stood there in uniform, no flashing lights, no drama, just presence, calm, unmistakably police. Good evening, he said, holding out a badge in one gloved hand. Detective Jake Harris, we received a call about a minor outside in distress. I felt Sarah tense behind me. David blinked. Wait, what? Who called? I did, a voice spoke up quietly behind him. Rachel, one of Sarah's college friends, barely 20, now stepping forward from the hallway near the kitchen. Her expression was apologetic but firm. She looked not okay. I didn't know what else to do. I'm sorry. David's jaw tightened, but before he could speak, I stepped into the doorway. Please come in. Detective Harris nodded and stepped inside, brushing snow from his shoulders. He took in the room quickly, the too loud silence, the half-empty glasses, the tension hanging like smoke. Then his eyes landed on me. You're the mother. Yes, I said, I'm Hannah Parker. He looked past me toward the stairs. Is she all right? She's upstairs, resting, I said, but even as I said it, I knew how it sounded, like something was being hidden. She was outside alone in freezing temperatures, he said. Can I ask how long she was out there? David finally snapped, stepping forward. Okay, look, I think there's been a misunderstanding. She walked out on her own. No one made her go. It's not like we locked her out. Detective Harris turned to him, measured. And you are? David Parker, her father. Harris nodded slowly. Mr. Parker, I'm not suggesting there was foul play, but I do need to understand the context. When was the last time you saw your daughter before she was found outside? David shifted. I don't know, maybe 30 minutes. She didn't say anything, she just left. She's 16, I said quietly, and no one noticed she was gone. The detective's gaze lingered on me, then returned to David. Has anything like this happened before? Any history of self-harm, runaway behavior, or family conflict? Sarah winced. David scoffed, "This is ridiculous, it's Christmas." She was upset about something, I don't know what, she's been moody for months. She wasn't moody, I said, sharper than I meant to. She was invisible to all of us. The room went still again. Detective Harris glanced toward the stairs. "I'd like to speak with her if she's willing." "She's not," Sarah said softly. "She doesn't want to talk, not to any of us." He nodded. "That's understandable." He turned to me. "Mrs. Parker, I'm not here to make assumptions, but what I see is a young girl who felt isolated enough to leave a warm house full of people and stand alone in the cold until someone finally noticed." I felt something crumble in my chest. We're not bad parents," I said, but it sounded fragile, like I didn't fully believe it anymore. "No one said you were," he replied gently, "but neglect doesn't always look the way people expect. Sometimes it's silence, absence, people looking through each other instead of at each other." David bristled beside me but didn't speak. Detective Harris exhaled, pulling a small notepad from his coat. "I won't be filing a report unless Lily chooses to pursue one, but I'd strongly recommend some kind of follow-up, counseling, family mediation. She needs to feel safe, seen." He tucked the notepad away and stepped back toward the door. "Have a good night," he said quietly, "and take care of your daughter." He left as quietly as he came. The door clicked shut behind him, but the weight he'd left behind didn't go with him. Upstairs, I heard Lily's door close softly. And I knew it wasn't over. Not even close. The door clicked shut behind Detective Harris and the air inside the house shifted, not colder, just heavier, like the truth had thickened around us, coating every surface. No one spoke. I moved to the kitchen without saying a word, needing something to do, something with my hands. I rinsed a plate that didn't need rinsing, wiped crumbs off a counter that was already clean. The voices in the living room had gone quiet. The party was dead now, guests still lingering, unsure if they should stay or make polite excuses. Upstairs, Lily's door closed again, this time harder, final. Sarah stood near the bottom of the staircase, her arms wrapped tightly across her chest. "She won't answer," she said. I tried knocking. "She needs time," I murmured, but even as I said it, I wasn't sure time would be enough. David poured himself a drink, not bourbon this time, just water, but the glass trembled slightly in his hand. "This is getting out of control," he muttered. I turned to him slowly. "Out of control." "It was a misunderstanding, Hannah," he said, a little louder. "She went outside, no one knew. You're making it sound like we abandoned her." Sarah shifted uncomfortably, glancing toward the kitchen doorway where Rachel and the other girls had quietly disappeared. "She stood out in the snow until someone called the police," I said flatly. "That's not a misunderstanding, that's a message." David paced, running a hand through his hair. "It's Christmas Eve, this isn't how this night was supposed to go." "She's not ruining it," I snapped before I could stop myself. "It was already ruined, you just didn't notice." That stopped him briefly. Sarah finally spoke, her voice quieter than I'd ever heard it. She said no one noticed she was gone. She was right, I didn't. I was too busy posting pictures, making everything look good. Her eyes filled and she blinked quickly. I haven't really seen her in months. I sank into one of the kitchen chairs, suddenly exhausted. For years, I'd been the one stitching everything together, school runs, dinners, appointments, holidays, keeping the surface smooth, smiling for guests, quietly stepping in when David pulled away, when Sarah was too busy, when Lily sulked through another morning. And in all of that, I'd missed her too. I dropped my head into my hands, my throat clenched so tight it hurt. The tears didn't fall loudly, they just leaked slow and steady into the silence. "I was trying to hold this family together," I whispered, "and I didn't even see it falling apart." David looked like he wanted to say something, but no words came. We gathered around the fireplace eventually, all three of us, not because we wanted to, but because we didn't know what else to do. The fire crackled, the room was still warm, but it didn't feel like home. It felt like a stage set we'd forgotten how to perform on. No one spoke, we just stared into the flames, watching the wood split and crumble. Then upstairs, the sound of Lily's bedroom door unlocking, a soft creak. Sarah sat up straighter. Footsteps slow, uneven. And then not Lily's voice, but a sudden crash, glass shattering, something heavy falling. I was on my feet before the others even moved. Because something had shifted upstairs. And I knew in my gut. We weren't just breaking down. We were breaking open. I took the stairs two at a time, the echo of that crash upstairs still vibrating through my chest. At the landing, I hesitated. Lily's door was closed again, the sound behind it now nothing but uneven breathing and the rustling of movement. Not chaos, not danger, just brokenness. I leaned my forehead against the door for a moment, eyes closed. "I'm here," I whispered, though I didn't expect an answer. There wasn't one. I turned back down the stairs slowly, every step suddenly heavy. When I reached the bottom, David was standing near the fireplace, staring into the flames like they held an answer. Sarah sat stiffly on the couch, her eyes red, her hands twisting the ends of her sleeves. "We need to talk," I said. David didn't turn. "About what? We already talked, it's done." "No," I said, "it is." He sighed, shoulders dropping, finally facing me. "What do you want me to say, Hannah? That I'm a terrible father, that everything's my fault?" "I want you to be honest," I said, for once. The words hung there, dangerous, electric. He swallowed hard, and for a moment I saw something break through the frustration in his eyes. Something old, something tired. "You think I don't know I've messed up," he said quietly. "You think I don't feel it every time she looks at me like I'm a stranger." Sarah lifted her head slowly, watching him. "I don't know what to do with her anymore," he continued. "I never know what she's feeling. I never know what you're feeling. I walk into a room and it's like everyone already decided I'm the problem." "You are part of the problem," I said, softer now. "Because you're not here, David, not really. You show up physically, but emotionally, you've been gone for years." He flinched like I'd hit him. "I've been surviving," he said, "trying to keep this house, this life, trying to stay afloat. I go to work every day terrified I'm going to lose everything, and I figured if I could just keep providing, then maybe that would be enough." "It's not," I whispered. "Money can't hold a family together." "I know that now," he said, voice breaking, "but it was easier to bury myself in work than face all of this. The disappointment, the distance, the feeling that no matter what I did, I wasn't good enough." Sarah exhaled shakily. "Dad." He looked at her, really looked, maybe for the first time in a long time. "I'm not angry at her," he said. "I'm scared. I don't know how to reach her. I'm afraid that if I try, I'll make it worse. So I stay quiet, I step back, I let you handle everything because you're good at it, Hannah, you always have been. And you don't see how alone that's left me," I said, "or her." Silence stretched, thick and aching. Sarah stood, stepping toward him. "You have to fix this, not Mom, not me, you." David's face crumpled and he pressed his hands to his eyes, shaking his head. "I don't know how." "You start by showing up," she said, her voice trembling, "and by not running this time." A quiet creak from the stairs interrupted us, so soft it might have been the house settling, but we all turned. Lily sat on the bottom step now, knees pulled to her chest, face blotchy and swollen from crying. She must have heard everything. Her eyes met David's, full of something I couldn't place, not forgiveness, not anger, something like uncertainty, like the first crack in a frozen lake. David took a step toward her, cautious, hands open. "Lily, I'm sorry." She looked down, shaking her head once barely. But she didn't get up and leave. That small, fragile choice felt like the first breath after drowning. We stood there, the four of us, suspended between ruin and possibility. Then Lily's voice, barely audible, broke the spell. "Do you even know what I needed tonight?" David opened his mouth, but no words came. And somewhere in that silence, something deep and unfinished trembled. Right before another voice called sharply from the living room. "Maybe someone should tell me what the hell is going on here." Mark, standing with his arms crossed, tone sharp, eyes narrowed. And David's face changed. Not fear. Something colder. Something that told me this night wasn't done exposing us yet. Mark's voice still echoed down the hallway, sharp, intrusive, like a match struck in the middle of a dark church. David didn't answer him. No one did. Because all I could focus on was Lily. Her shoulders were drawn up so tight it looked like she was trying to fold herself in half. Sarah stood nearby, frozen, her eyes flicking helplessly between us. "Let's go upstairs," I said softly to Lily, "just you and me." She didn't speak, but she nodded. I held the railing as we climbed, listening for the usual creaks in the steps, every one louder now. When we reached her room, she hesitated and then stepped aside, letting me enter first. It was dim inside, lit only by a string of half-working fairy lights on the headboard. The floor was cluttered, the air warm and still, thick with the scent of lavender and something older, maybe grief. She sat on the edge of her bed, not facing me, not looking at anything. "I didn't mean to make it about me," I said gently, taking the desk chair and turning it toward her. "I know tonight, it's been a lot, but I want to hear you now. I want to know what's going on inside." Lily picked at a thread on her sleeve. For a long moment, nothing came, then. "It's like I'm a ghost in this house." Her voice was raw, soft, like something peeled open slowly. "Everyone looks past me, or through me, or around me. No one ever really looks at me." I felt the first sting of tears again, but I didn't let them fall. Not now. "I don't know how long I've felt this way," she went on, eyes still on her lap. "Maybe since Sarah left for college, maybe before that, but I'd be in the kitchen or the hallway or the back seat of the car and no one would say anything, like I wasn't even there." "I should have noticed," I whispered. She nodded. "Yeah, you should have." That landed hard and honest. "I thought I was giving you space," I said. "I thought letting you figure yourself out meant backing off. I didn't realize it felt like abandonment." "It wasn't space," she said. "It was silence. You were busy. Dad was gone even when he was here. Sarah stopped talking to me unless I did something wrong or weird." Her breath hitched and then the words spilled out too fast, and I thought maybe if I got quieter someone would ask what was wrong, or maybe if I just vanished for a while you'd come looking sooner. I leaned forward, trying not to reach for her. "Not yet. I'm sorry, Lily, I am so sorry." She looked up at me finally, and her eyes were red, rimmed with anger and something far deeper. "Do you get how alone I've been? Like, not just sad, like I could disappear and it wouldn't matter." The weight of it crushed me. I nodded slowly. "It matters, you matter. I don't know how we fix this, but I want to try with you." A knock, this one gentle, came at the door. Sarah peeked in. "Can I come in?" Lily shrugged, not quite yes, not quite no, but Sarah entered anyway, kneeling near the bed. "I haven't been a good sister," she said. "I thought you were just acting out and I didn't ask why. I'm sorry." Lily looked at her for a long second. "You didn't see me either." "I see you now." Lily blinked hard, jaw tightening, then exhaled. "I don't know if I can trust any of this." "You don't have to trust it yet," I said, "but maybe we can talk to someone, a therapist, together. You don't have to carry all of this alone." She hesitated, then nodded. "Once." It wasn't hope, not quite, but it was something close. And just as I reached for her hand, the doorbell rang again downstairs. Not a knock. The bell sharp measured. Another interruption. And this time I didn't know if it was coming for us or tearing us apart again. The doorbell rang again, louder this time, sharper, and I could see the tension pull tight across Lily's shoulders like piano wire. "I'll get it," Sarah said quickly, already moving. Lily flinched as the sound of Sarah's footsteps faded down the stairs. I turned back to her. "Do you want to stay up here?" Lily shook her head. "I don't care anymore." But she stood anyway, brushing her palms against her jeans. Her eyes were dry now, too dry, like she'd already used up whatever tears she had left. We descended together, slowly. David was by the front door, hand on the knob, speaking to someone just outside, hushed, quick. When he turned and closed it behind him, he didn't look at us right away. "It was just a neighbor," he said. "They heard the cop car earlier, thought something had happened." Something had happened, but no one corrected him. Lily stopped a few feet from him, crossing her arms. "You wanted to talk?" she asked flatly. David straightened. "Yes, I do." He took a cautious step closer. "I know I messed up, but we can't go on like this, acting like we're strangers under the same roof." Lily looked him dead in the eye. "We are strangers." That hit harder than she probably meant it to. David opened his mouth, but she didn't let him speak. "I don't need you to fix anything, I just need space, respect. I want to make my own decisions now without being treated like a problem or a project." I'm not treating you like a project, he said, wounded. I'm trying to be part of this family again. You were never part of it, Lily snapped. You just dropped in when it was convenient. You don't get to rebuild something you barely helped build. David blinked like she'd slapped him. Okay, he said, his voice tight. Then what do you want, to live like we don't exist? Lily folded her arms tighter. Maybe that'd be better than pretending. Sarah hovered near the kitchen doorway, her face caught somewhere between panic and exhaustion. This isn't helping, she said. You're both just throwing punches and expecting healing. I'm trying, David said sharply. You think this is easy for me? No, I said, stepping in, but it's not about what's easy for you. He turned to me, eyes flashing. So now it's 2 against 1. No one's taking sides, I said, though even as I said it, I felt the split inside me, the pull between the man I married and the daughter who needed me more than ever. I can't lose her, David said, quieter now. I know I've screwed up, but I'm willing to go to therapy, family sessions, whatever it takes. Lily didn't soften. You can't fix years of silence in one night. I know that, he said, but we have to start somewhere. Then start without me, Lily muttered, and she turned toward the stairs again. Lily, I reached for her, but she pulled away, gentle but firm. I don't need a family meeting, she said. I need freedom. I need you all to stop deciding what I need before I can speak. She disappeared up the steps, 2 at a time again. Sarah exhaled hard, pacing in a tight circle. She doesn't trust any of us, and honestly, I can't blame her. David sat down heavily, running a hand over his face. I stood in the middle of the living room, feeling all the threads I'd tried so hard to hold together slip through my fingers. I don't know how we fix this, I said, mostly to myself. And then Sarah said quietly, like she was afraid to even name it. Maybe we can't. And none of us argued with her. We didn't speak much that night. After Lily disappeared upstairs again, Sarah left a mug of tea outside her door. It stayed there until morning, cold and untouched. David fell asleep on the couch, still in his sweater and slacks, one arm hanging off the side like he'd surrendered to something invisible. I stayed awake, listening to the creaks and sighs of the house, the kind you only notice when the walls are full of silence instead of laughter. By the time morning came, the house was still dim, the Christmas trees' lights blinking in slow rhythm like a heartbeat on life support. I was standing at the kitchen sink when David came in. His hair was a mess. He looked like someone who hadn't slept in days, though it had only been one long, terrible night. I made coffee, I said, not turning. He sat at the table. I don't think we can do this on our own. I looked at him then, really looked. Are you saying that because you believe it, I asked, or because you're afraid she's already too far gone? Both, he said. We sat in that strange truce for a while, no arguments, no blame, just 2 people who'd finally run out of ways to pretend. An hour later, when Lily came down, she didn't say good morning. She didn't say anything at all, just poured cereal into a bowl and ate it standing up like a guest in her own house. I waited until she was almost finished before I spoke. I want us to talk to someone, I said, together, a therapist, someone outside this house who can help us figure out how to stop hurting each other. She froze, spoon midair. You mean counseling? Yes, I said gently. David nodded beside me. All of us, not just you. Lily stared at him. You'd actually show up. His answer was quiet. I'd be the first one through the door. She looked at me. And what if I say no? Then I'll still go, I said, because this isn't just about you, it's about all of us. Her eyes softened for a breath, then hardened again. I'm not promising anything. I'm not asking you to, I said. I'm asking you to come with me once, just try. She put her bowl in the sink, rinsed it, and then with her back still to us, she said, fine, one time. The waiting room was quiet, just the hum of a fake fireplace in the corner and a stack of outdated magazines no one touched. David sat stiffly beside me, clutching his knee like it was the only thing tethering him to the floor. Lily sat across from us, earbuds in, but I could tell she wasn't listening to anything. She just wanted a barrier. When they called our name, we followed a young woman with warm eyes and a kind but professional tone into a small office lined with soft chairs and a single window. Dr. Marin. She asked questions that felt too simple and too hard at the same time. What brought you here today? No one answered at first. Then Lily said they didn't see me for a long time, and now I don't know if I want to be seen. David's eyes filled. He didn't cry, but he heard her, maybe truly heard her for the first time. I reached for her hand. She let me take it. I failed you, I said. No, Lily whispered, you just forgot I was real. The silence that followed was a different kind, not cold, not angry, just honest. We talked for an hour, maybe more. It wasn't pretty, it wasn't cathartic, but it was real. And when we walked out into the gray afternoon light, something in Lily's posture was different, not open, not yet. But no longer folded in. Just upright. That night, David pulled a folded brochure from his pocket. Weekly sessions, he said, for families who have been through emotional trauma. Lily eyed it warily. I said I'd go once. I know, he said, I'm just showing you I'll keep going. She didn't answer. But she didn't walk away either. We went back the next week. None of us said it aloud, but something unspoken had shifted after the first session. We sat in the same chairs, same room, but this time the silence didn't last as long. Dr. Marin began gently, asking about specific moments, not dramatic ones, just the ordinary days that had stacked up to build a wall between us. Tell me about a time, she said, when you felt unseen. Lily didn't even blink. Sophomore year, winter band concert. I asked you all to come. Dad had a client dinner. Sarah had a paper. Mom, you were there, but you left after the first song. I remembered that night, the fog of errands and a last-minute call from work. I'd thought she'd understand. I hadn't realized what it had cost her. I thought it didn't matter to you, I said quietly. It did, she said. That was the night I stopped trying. David rubbed his hands together slowly. I told myself I was building something for the family, something lasting, but the truth is I just didn't want to come home some nights. He looked down. I was exhausted and scared I'd say the wrong thing, so I stayed late, worked more. I thought distance was safer than screwing up. Sarah sat forward, fingers laced. When I left for college, I didn't check in as much as I should have. I figured Lily had you guys, but I never asked, never called to ask how she was. Lily's voice was low. I didn't need big things, just someone to notice the small ones. That line hung in the air like smoke. Dr. Marin nodded. What kind of small things? Lily shrugged. No one ever asked what I was drawing, or why I cut my hair short sophomore year, or why I started skipping lunch and hiding in the library. Sarah inhaled sharply. You skipped lunch. For almost 3 months, Lily said, not as an accusation, just fact. David leaned forward, elbows on knees. I didn't know, I didn't ask, I assumed everything was fine unless someone screamed it at me. Lily smiled, but it was bitter. I don't scream. No, I said, you disappear and we let you. For the first time, Lily met my eyes, and in hers I didn't see anger. I saw something more dangerous, understanding. Because now we all saw it, the cumulative weight of things unsaid. The me. S said recitals, the unasked questions, the way we passed her in the hallway and assumed silence meant okay. Dr. Marin gave us space to sit with it. I started acting out, Lily said finally, because I wanted someone to react. The smoking, the skipping, the attitude, it wasn't rebellion, it was just noise, hoping someone would turn their head. David was quiet. Then, you were never the problem, Lily, we were. It wasn't a grand apology, but it landed. Sarah reached across the couch, touched Lily's arm lightly. I thought you'd be fine because you were always smart, quiet, independent. I never thought that maybe quiet was survival, not comfort. Lily didn't pull away this time. I don't need perfect, I just want people who pay attention. I felt something inside me settle, like a puzzle piece finally clicking into place. Not the solution, but at least the border. I think we all stopped looking, I said, and we're just now realizing how blind we became. Dr. Marin smiled, not in triumph, but in recognition. That's what healing begins with, she said, naming what was lost. Outside, the sky had gone dark. The window reflected the 4 of us sitting there, closer than the week before. Still cracked, but somehow beginning to mend. Then Lily said softly, I don't trust that this will last. No, I said, but we can earn it, a day at a time. And in the reflection, I saw her nod. Barely. But she did. The third month of therapy passed quietly. No grand breakthroughs, no movie moment epiphanies, just the slow grind of showing up to sessions, to each other, to ourselves. And somehow, that mattered more than anything we'd said. David started coming home early, not every night and not without effort, but enough that it registered. He didn't bury himself in emails anymore or find a reason to stay late when things got tense. Instead, he lingered in the kitchen while Lily made tea. He offered rides to school. Some days she accepted, others she didn't. But what mattered was he asked. One Friday afternoon, I came home from the grocery store to find them sitting at the dining room table. David was helping Lily fill out college program interest forms. She didn't look thrilled, but she wasn't closed off either. Her earbuds were on the table, her body language was open, and when she stood to leave, she muttered, "Thanks." He didn't react with surprise, just nodded, "Anytime." Sarah came home for spring break in March. She was different too, a little quieter, less distracted. The first night back, she slipped a book onto Lily's bed without saying a word, a graphic novel she used to love when she was younger. Lily didn't say thank you, but the next morning I found her reading it on the back porch with a blanket wrapped around her shoulders. We still had bad days. Lily had a panic attack after a tough therapy session about middle school bullying, something she'd never told any of us about. She didn't want anyone to touch her afterward. She went to her room and shut the door and for 2 days barely spoke. But on the third day, she knocked on our door and asked, "Can I sleep in here tonight?" David moved without speaking, making space on the bed between us. She didn't cry, she just lay there, curled between two people who'd missed years of this, and gave herself permission to stay. Sarah took her to lunch that weekend, just the two of them. When they came back, they were laughing about something dumb a waiter said. It wasn't loud or performative, just light, easy. We planned a trip that April, just 4 days, coastal Maine, a weathered old rental house near the shore, far from school and Wi-Fi and our routines. There was nothing fancy about it. The bedrooms had creaky floors and the furniture smelled like salt. But we played board games, cooked dinners together, walked along the beach with gloves on and hoods pulled tight against the wind. One night we built a fire outside. Lily didn't sit between us. She brought her own chair and dragged it just close enough to feel the warmth. Sarah handed her a marshmallow on a stick. Lily burned it on purpose, blackened until it melted. "Just how I like it," she said. And David laughed, not too loud, not forced, just warm. We sat in silence for a while, the crackling fire between us. "I can't believe we're not yelling," Sarah joked. Lily smirked, "Yet." It was small, but it was real. We still argued, of course. Old rhythms don't vanish overnight. I still caught myself interrupting Lily. David still talked over emotions with logistics. Sarah still checked out when things got uncomfortable. But now we noticed it and named it and tried again. Sometimes that was the win. At our next session with Dr. Marin, she asked how things were going. "We're still messy," Lily said, "but not in the same way." David smiled, "Messy with a map." "Messy with a flashlight," Sarah added. They looked at me. "I think," I said, "we're just finally walking toward each other instead of a way." Dr. Marin nodded, "And when the next storm comes?" Lily didn't hesitate. "Then we'll sit in the dark," she said, "but not alone." And for the first time since that night in the snow, I believed her. It happened on a Tuesday, nothing dramatic, just Lily coming home late from school after a group project, kicking off her boots in the hallway and finding David in the kitchen, already starting dinner. He didn't hover, he didn't force a conversation, he just handed her a cutting board and said, "You can chop the onions if you want, if not, no pressure." She stood there for a beat, then shrugged, "I'll do it." I watched from the living room, pretending to read, but not missing a single thing. She peeled them slow, methodical. He didn't tell her she was doing it wrong, she didn't comment on the smell. It wasn't the onions that made her eyes water. Later that night, after Sarah had FaceTimed us from campus, short call, mostly updates and laughter, Lily knocked on our bedroom door. David was already in bed, TV on low. I muted it before he could reach for the remote. "I need to say something," Lily said. She was standing in the doorway, arms loose at her sides, no defense, no performance. David sat up straighter. Okay. I don't think I'm ready to be close exactly, she said, voice careful, but I don't want to keep punishing you for something you're trying to fix. He swallowed hard. Lily. I'm still angry, she said, but I forgive you for not knowing how to be there, even if it'll take time to trust it. It wasn't a hallmark moment, but it was real, and from Lily, it was everything. David nodded, eyes shining. Thank you. Lily blinked quickly, then looked at me. I'm gonna go to bed. Good night, baby, I said. She didn't flinch when I said it this time. She turned and disappeared down the hallway. David exhaled, his shoulders slumping with the kind of relief that doesn't come from a solved problem, just a shared one. We lay there in the quiet for a while. You think we'll be okay? He asked eventually. I think we'll get better, I said, which is more honest than okay. He reached for my hand under the blanket. I let him. For the first time in a long time, we didn't go to bed bracing for silence. Spring passed like a slow thaw. The house wasn't perfect, the laundry still piled up, Lily still slammed a door now and then, and David still had to remind himself not to respond to emotion with spreadsheets. But we started cooking more dinners together, taking walks, checking in, not out. Sarah stayed close, even from afar. She sent Lily care packages, small ones, full of things that didn't cost much but meant something. Lily started replying to her texts more often, sometimes even with full sentences. One night we played a card game at the kitchen table and Lily actually laughed. Not a smirk, not sarcasm, just pure, careless laughter. David looked at me like he couldn't believe it was real. I knew better. It was hard-earned. It was deserved. At our next therapy session, Dr. Marin asked if we still feared slipping back into the old ways. Sometimes, I said, but the difference now is we'd notice. David nodded and we'd say something. Lily didn't say anything for a long moment, then, finally. I don't feel like a stranger in my own house anymore. That was it, that was everything. A few days later, Lily was helping me fold laundry in the den. She was quiet, focused. Then she looked up at me. Do you remember last Christmas, she asked, when I went outside? I remember every second, I said. She nodded, folding a t-shirt. I don't feel that cold anymore. I didn't ask her to explain, I didn't need to. And then, almost as if on cue, the lights in the house flickered. Just once. Just enough to make us both look up. And then we smiled. By the time the leaves turned gold again, the rhythm of our house had changed. Not dramatically, not even consistently, but enough that it felt like we were living with the volume turned down on whatever had been screaming inside us for so long. Lily came down for breakfast most mornings now, sometimes already dressed, sometimes wrapped in her oversized hoodie, hair in a messy bun. She still didn't talk much before 9 a.m., but she didn't disappear anymore either. Some mornings, she even made toast for Max. And Max, he was growing fast, 12 going on 20, sharp-eyed and observant in ways that reminded me painfully of Lily at his age. He didn't say much during the storm last winter. He'd been quiet, careful, always watching. But lately he spoke up more, asked questions, made jokes. Lately he wasn't walking on eggshells, because there weren't as many to dodge. David took Fridays off now, not every week but often enough that it felt intentional. He used to fill his schedule with meetings, networking calls, flight itineraries. Now he packed Lily's lunches when she overslept, drove Max to soccer practice, sat at the end of the kitchen table while I paid bills or folded laundry. One Friday I caught him scribbling in a small black notebook. I peeked over his shoulder. What I missed, it said at the top. And underneath. Her first band concert. The time Max won the art award. Lily's short haircut and how no one asked why. I didn't say anything, I just kissed the top of his head and let him keep writing. This year Christmas looked different. No glittering dinner party, no loud guests, no elaborate menu curated to impress people we barely saw the rest of the year. Instead, Lily strung lights along the staircase with Max. David bought mismatched stockings. Sarah flew in early and helped bake cookies from a crumpled, butter-stained recipe card we found in a drawer, something my mother used to make long before any of this. And this time we all sat around the table, just us. No one looked at their phones, no one performed joy. There were quiet moments, yes, pauses, but not from tension, from comfort. At one point, Max asked if we could go around and say one thing we appreciated about each other. I braced myself, instinctively ready for an eye roll from Lily, a joke from Sarah, a deflection from David. But no one rolled their eyes. And one by one we did it. Max told Sarah he missed how she used to read to him, even when she was too old for picture books. Sarah told Lily she admired how she'd fought to be seen, even when none of us made it easy. Lily looked straight at David and said, "Thanks for not quitting." David's hands trembled just slightly as he took a sip of cider. "Thanks for giving me a second chance to try." When it got quiet, I realized everyone was looking at me. I smiled. "I'm just grateful we're all still here together." Lily nudged Max and whispered, "Okay, Mom won that one." We laughed. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. One evening in early January, I found Lily in the backyard, sitting on the steps in her coat, watching the snow fall. I stepped out beside her. "Cold?" I asked. "Not really," she said, "just thinking." We sat there together in the hush of winter, the porch light glowing behind us. "Feels different this year," she said. "It is. Do you ever wonder if we'll fall back into it, the way it was?" I nodded slowly. "Sometimes, but I think we know how to find our way out now." She pulled her sleeves over her hands, then added, "Max doesn't flinch anymore when people raise their voices." That landed deep, the kind of thing that used to slip past me, the small, quiet details. "That's because the house is safer now," I said. Lily didn't respond, but she leaned her head briefly against my shoulder before standing to go inside. She paused at the door. "I left my sketchbook on the table if you want to look." I blinked. "Are you sure?" She nodded once. "Yeah, just be gentle." And then she slipped inside, leaving the door open behind her. Not wide, but open. That night, after the house had gone still, I flipped through the sketchbook, pages of quiet grief, of sharp lines and long silences, then slowly drawings of figures standing closer, reaching, sitting at tables, smiling. The last page was unfinished, pencil lines, no ink, just the beginning of a fire and 4 shadows sitting around it. No names, no words. Just warmth. And room to grow. It started with a voicemail. David played it twice at the kitchen table, once alone and once again with me beside him, his phone pressed between us like a warning. His firm was downsizing, restructuring, the kind of word people use when they don't want to say disposable. After 14 years, he was being offered a severance package. He stared down at the screen like he expected it to explain itself. "I should have seen this coming," he said, voice flat. "You couldn't have," I said. But he didn't believe me, not yet. We told the kids over dinner. Lily sat back, unreadable at first. Max froze, fork halfway to his mouth. Sarah was still at school but joined the conversation via video call, her face framed by her dorm room posters and a drying towel on the bed behind her. "Are we gonna be okay?" Max asked. I didn't lie. "Things will be tight for a while." David added, "But we're figuring it out together." Lily kept her eyes on her plate, then said, "What do you need from us?" "Not what's going to happen, not why now. Just what can I do?" That was new. The following weeks tested everything we'd worked for. Tension curled back into the corners of the house like fog, not thick but present. David became quieter, his movements slower, his confidence shaken in ways I hadn't seen since the beginning. I caught him staring at job boards at 3 a.m., blinking like he didn't recognize his own resume. We fought once, a small thing. He snapped at me about groceries. I responded with sarcasm. The silence afterward was awful. But the next morning, he apologized before I could. "I'm scared," he admitted, "not just about money, about what I become when I'm scared." And instead of retreating, I reached for him. "We're not that family anymore," I said. "We talk now, even when it's hard." Lily stepped up in ways I didn't expect. She offered to cook once a week. She started doing her own laundry without being asked. She even walked Max home from school when I got stuck in traffic, not because I asked her to, but because she noticed. One night, she knocked on our door and held up an envelope. My college application fees, she said. I'll cover half I've been saving. David tried to protest, but Lily held her ground. I'm not doing this because we're broke, she said. I'm doing it because I'm part of this family and we help each other. David nodded slowly, like something deep inside him had just shifted. Sarah came home one weekend and found David pacing in the garage after a particularly rough interview had ended with "You're overqualified." I used to think being needed meant being perfect, he told her. Now I don't know what I am without the job. You're still our dad, she said, still worth showing up for. She didn't try to solve anything, just stood beside him. And in that silence I saw the bridge she was building, not just between him and Lily, but between who he was and who he was trying to become. By the time spring came around again, the budget was tighter, but the house was quieter in the good way. We canceled our vacation plans, cut back on takeout. David took a part-time consulting gig to stay afloat while searching for something long-term. We made it work. Not because it was easy, but because this time we worked together. And when we stumbled, which we didn't retreat into blame or silence. We named the pain, we sat in it, and then we moved forward. One Sunday afternoon, the four of us sat in the living room, the windows open just enough to let in the smell of the neighbor's lilacs. Max was drawing. Sarah had a laptop balanced on one knee. Lily sat curled in the armchair, her sketchbook open but forgotten. David walked in from the porch with 2 steaming mugs. He handed one to Lily. Chamomile, he said, no honey. She blinked. You remembered. He smiled. I try. She took the mug not with hesitation but with ease. And then quietly she said, you're doing okay. It wasn't a compliment, it was a milestone. David sat down beside me and exhaled. Later that night, he found a sticky note on his pillow. Thanks for not disappearing. No signature, no flourish. Just presence. We were still as flawed, tired, learning. But now, when life tilted, we didn't crumble. We leaned in. The snow came late that year, soft, reluctant flakes drifting past the windows like a memory we didn't want to name too soon. Inside, the tree was smaller than it used to be. No towering spruce dragged in for show, no glitter-drenched ornaments from some catalog, just a modest pine from the local lot, branches slightly uneven. Lights warm but quiet. Lily had insisted we let Max decorate the bottom half on his own. It was crooked in the best way. The house smelled like cinnamon and cloves, and peace. We didn't host a party this year, no catered desserts, no clinking glasses, no forced smiles. Just family. I watched David in the kitchen humming under his breath as he stirred cranberry sauce on the stove. He wore a fraying apron Sarah had made in middle school, a crooked snowman stitched across the front. Lily sat on the counter beside him, tapping notes into her phone for a scholarship essay she hadn't let anyone read yet. She paused. Hey, did we get rosemary for the potatoes? Top shelf in the fridge, he said without missing a beat. She didn't roll her eyes or huff, she just slid off the counter and went to get it. It sounds like nothing, I know. But last year she would have walked away. David would have been at his office, pretending the stove was someone else's responsibility. And I would have been cleaning up after both of them, exhausted, angry, and pretending not to be either. Now we passed each other things. Sarah came in from the cold a few hours later, cheeks flushed, arms full of firewood and coffee. Max trailed behind her, chattering about a new graphic novel and how he'd beaten her at gin rummy 4 times on the train, which she claimed was a lie, but she didn't argue too hard. They'd always been close, but now their laughter was easy again, not a mask, not a performance. Just light. That night we all sat around the fireplace. No one had dressed up. Max wore pajama pants and one sock. David's hair was still damp from his shower. Lily had on a hoodie with a hole in the sleeve and a mug balanced on her knee. We opened a few simple gifts, nothing extravagant. A used copy of a poetry book Lily loved. A watch David had been eyeing for months, bought with pooled money and a lot of secrecy. Max got a model kit and immediately started building it on the living room floor. Sarah gave me a framed photo she'd taken of the 4 of us on the main trip, not posed, just caught mid-laughter, wind in our hair, salt in the air. I printed 2, she said. I keep the other one on my desk. David reached for my hand. We stayed like that for a while, talking, laughing, pausing when we needed to, no pressure to perform joy, just the space to feel it when it came. Later, after Max had gone to bed and Sarah was upstairs FaceTiming friends, Lily stood at the window watching the snow fall. I joined her. "You okay?" I asked. She nodded. "I was just remembering." Her voice was steady, but something in it reached down into the ache I still carried. "I think about that night a lot," she said, "not just how cold it was, but how quiet." I didn't speak. I let the silence settle, let it belong to her. "I didn't want to die," she added suddenly. "I just wanted someone to see me before I disappeared completely." My throat closed. "You didn't disappear," I whispered. "You waited, and I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you never have to wait that long again." She turned to me. Her eyes were clear. "I know," she said. "I believe you now." Upstairs, David turned off the hallway light. I heard the familiar creak of our bedroom door, heard Sarah laughing through her open doorway. Max snored softly from his room. And Lily leaned her head against my shoulder. "Merry Christmas, Mom." It was the first time she'd said it in years. "Merry Christmas, baby." Later, after the house had gone still, I stood at the living room window alone, watching the flakes catch in the light. 1 year. 12 months ago, I found my daughter outside, freezing, barefoot in the snow, her breath barely visible in the dark. She'd been right there the whole time. And somehow I hadn't seen her. Now she was asleep upstairs, warm, heard, healing. Not perfect, not fixed, but present. And together, through every sharp silence, every hard word, every tear and apology and late-night conversation, we'd found our way back. Stronger. Scarred. But whole.